researcher, policy and legislative consultant, editor, author, and founder of multiple research networks. His contributions span interdisciplinary fields, including decolonial and Bangsamoro studies, and has published extensively on these subjects. Dr. Adyong graduated magna cum laude with a degree in international studies from the University of the East, an institution that later recognized him as one of its 75 most outstanding alumni. He earned his master's degree in international studies from the University of the Philippines, where he would go on to teach and be honored as a UP scientist and recipient of the UP Diliman Centennial Professional Chair. He holds a PhD in international relations from the Middle East Technical University. His academic journey has also been supported by prestigious international fellowships, including the study of the United States Institute's program on religious pluralism at the Temple University, the Shinin Fellowship at the Oxford Center for Islamic Studies, and grants from TÜBİTAK in Turkey and the EU's Erasmus Mundus program. Our dear guests, participants today, let's give a warm round of applause to Dr. Nassef Manabilong Adyong, who will give us a topic on moral governance in BARM.
Thank you, Ron. Can everyone hear me when I speak here on my end? Okay. Thanks for the introduction. So I'll be speaking about the moral governance, and everyone's thinking about and contemplating and asking and inquiring what's moral governance is all about since the establishment of the Bangsamoro government as precluded by the organic law. Just a second. Okay. So way back in 2019, everyone's asking what's moral governance all about, and to give some initial thoughts about. Can you see my slides moving? Because sometimes
Yes,
there are
we can see your slide.
difficulties. So it moves from the second slide.
Yes.
You can see the contents, okay? Just to make sure everything's in order. So these are the contents of what I'm going to talk about. It's very, very short, just to give you an idea and how I provided some theoretical principles that are rooted from Islamic philosophy and Islamic governance, and then how did the government, the regional government, have applied what they think about is moral governance. Firstly, in legislation, and then secondly, in the programs of the Bangsamoro government. First, in the idea that the chief minister then, Murad, have spoken about when he was interviewed in Istanbul way back in 2019. He said, and I quote, when we joined the government, we found out that there are so many anomalies in the government. So when we see if we cannot change the system, and I'm just reading what he stated here, then there is no way we will succeed. For example, corruption. Corruption is built already in the government, and this is what we have also been experiencing day to day, not only in the Bangsamoro government, but also as well as in the national government. It is automatic because it is already built in. That's why our advocacy is moral governance. So we will see here what's the difference between the Western based, as defined by the so many multilateral organizations such as the World Bank, on good governance, and we will see how did the MILF or the leadership of the Bangsamoro have conceptualized and think about the moral governance that they are espousing in. And he also stated here that, and for the first time, when people join the government, we let them take oath to the Constitution and take oath to Allah, a noble oath, to ensure that this moral governance will be the basis. So when I was invited way back in 2021 to serve the BTA, Policy Research and Legal Services, when we had our oath, we also take an oath of allegiance to moral governance. So we say, and as I continue reading what he stated here, we are not imposing the moral virtues of Islam, because if you look at the moral virtues of Islam, it is for the mankind. It is not only for Muslims. You will notice in the Holy Quran that there are many verses which are addressed to mankind instead of only to Muslims. So we are careful also because maybe they will be saying we are establishing an Islamic government, which is not very popular among the other people in the area. Because as you can see, you can also think Bangsamoro as a kind of a tripartite, a tri-community of Muslims, IPs, and community settlers. Also, Chief Minister Ibrahim also stated that the moral governance must start from the call for jihad with an oath before the Quran. He emphasized that the moral background of our governance is our faith, and that we must define what morality means for ourselves before we can start governance. So when I started working in the parliament and also reviewing many of the legislations and what could be mean when we speak of and think about and probably internalize what moral governance is for every moral people. So I started to try to conceptualize and think of what could be the actions or what we speak of theorems or principles that might be within and be embedded on moral governance. So I take a look at the Bangsamoro Organic Law, and when I read the Bangsamoro Organic Law, I saw some principles that you can also juxtapose with certain theorems or theoretical principles in Islam. So as you can see in your slide, if you can see that it moved to the third slide, there are five theorems that I propose that are juxtaposed to the Bangsamoro Organic Law. Firstly is we have faith. So these are the principles that I'm speaking of: faith, freedom, moral authority, common good, and social ethics. In the Bangsamoro Organic Law, faith is actually enshrined in the preamble, as you can see. And if I could just provide a quotation: imploring the aims of Almighty God in recognition of the aspirations of the Bangsamoro people, reflective of their system of life as prescribed by their faith, in harmony with their customary laws, cultures, and traditions, so on and so forth. The second one being is, you can see in Article 4, Section 10 until Article 9, Section 5, is that accountability and responsibility characterize freedom, which is the second principle of moral governance in Islam. When we speak of Islamic freedom, it is an inward act that links the spiritual self with exaltation connected to dignity and respect, which you can see in many of the Quranic verses. It actually tacitly entails and necessitates knowledge of heaven and earth and of virtues and vices, whereas the ultimate exercises of freedom is precisely the operation of being free from the influence and domination of the what we call ego or egotistical desires that might incite evil. The state of perfection or perfect submission to Allah and the choice of good and wanton affection of the transcendent are attributes pertaining to individual freedom in many Muslim societies across civilizationals. So you can see that in Article 4, General Principles and Policies, Section 10, freedom of choice, that the freedom of choice of all people within the Bangsamoro region shall be respected, including indigenous people shall have the freedom to retain their distinct indigenous, and ethnic identity, in addition to their Bangsamoro political identity. Also, as well as in Article 9, Section 5, it also provide an emphasis to religious freedom, so that the Bangsamoro government shall guarantee religious freedom and the free exercise pursuant to the Constitution, national laws, and principles of international law. The third theorem that I propose as part of what when we theorize moral governance, is moral authority. Here, uh, moral authority, which is the third, I think the third principle, is legitimized if it serves the higher purpose or objectives of Sharia or Maqasid al Sharia, including the epistemological sources of Islam, such as the Quran and the Sunnah. So, the crucial element of moral authority in Sharia is to regulate the welfare and the prevention of harm by considering the significance of life, intellect, faith, wealth, and progeny, or securing that there are descendants of or offspring along ahead of. So the Quran and the Sunnah, which are the epistemological source of Islam, establishes that the sovereignty belonging to Allah alone, and humans are endowed with mandate to govern through popular vicegerency. So the moral authority from the hakimiyah or sovereignty of God is now bestowed to the humanity through a what we call vicegerency. So this exercise of delegated power or on behalf of the sovereign, which can be you can also attain in various ways as long as it is agreed by the Ummah or by the entire Muslim community. You can see many in the dynasties, also as well as based on hereditary rule of Muslim civilizations. Here, you can see that moral authority is quite pronounced in Article 4, Section 3, which is the democratic political system, that the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region shall have a democratic political system that allows its people to freely participate in the political process. As well as you can see in Section 4, electoral system, that the Bangsamoro government shall adopt an electoral system which will be consistent with national election laws. So you can see probably in the previous sessions of these series of talks that they have also discussed about electoral system in the Bangsamoro, which is a parliamentary system. And also Section 5, the civilian government, that the governance shall be the responsibility of the duly elected civilian government. You can also take a look at as pronouns that are somehow conduent to moral authority on Article 9, Basic Rights, Section 11, Participation of Women in the Bangsamoro government. It provides an impetus and imperative that aside from the reserved seat for women in the parliament, there shall be at least one woman to be appointed to the Bangsamoro cabinet. Now we are now going to talk about the fourth element, the common good, based on Islamic-rooted moral governance. It is actually characterized by public welfare, in Arabic maslaha, and also public interest or istisla. For this common good, as you can see, you can take a look at Article 5 of the Organic Law, Section 3, general welfare. So it is somehow also embedded that you can see the pronouncement of maslaha, public welfare, and public interest, istisla, on in Section 3, general welfare, that the Bangsamoro government shall exercise the power expressly granted, those necessarily implied, as well as powers necessarily appropriate or incidental for its efficient and effective governance, and those which are essential to the promotion of for general welfare. Now, the last theoretical principle is social ethics. It constitutes actually the following interrelated theorems in social ethics. Firstly, community. Second, trust. Third, justice. peace, and equality. And there's so many articles that I don't want to go on with it. You can see here Article 4, Section 6, promotion of unity, Section 7, social justice, Section 9, rights of non-Moro indigenous peoples. Also in Article 10, Article 9, Section 6, human rights. Um, Section 8, right of access to basic services. Section 10, rights of labor, rights of the youth in Section 13, and Section 14, rights of children, and as well as in Article 13, regional economy and patrimony, there are also rights afforded to indigenous peoples regarding their access and use of natural resources in the Bangsamoro jurisdiction. Now, when we try to apply, when the Bangsamoro tried to apply moral governance, they actually applied it to two approaches. One being is the on legislation. The first legislation, as you can see, that provided a legal definition about what moral governance is under the Bangsamoro Autonomy Act 13 or the Bangsamoro Administrative Code. In the introductory provisions, it connotes that in Section 3, letter J, the Bangsamoro government in pursuit of moral governance, and then again it was defined in Section 4 that moral governance refers to the set of rules, practices, and processes completely devoid of all the evils of graft and corruption, and explicitly driven by the moral principles of utmost dedication, devotion, honesty, justice, and integrity. Also, as well as under the same BAA, in Chapter 5, which is on Section 19, Ethics and Governance, that all public officers and employees shall be guided by the core values of moral governance, which is, again, later on, we will speak of how this definition was expounded and expanded under the Bangsamoro Civil Service Code. In Chapter 7 of the Admin Code, Official Oath, it is mandatory to take the oath of moral governance. And you can just read what's the oath of moral governance is under the BAA. Now, under the Bangsamoro Civil Service Code, it expounded and included in the legal definition the word excellence or isan. You can also take a look at in Chapter 3 on the Civil Service Code that here when we speak of screening process of those who will be getting hired, that each agency in the Bangsamoro government shall evolve its own screening process, which may include tests of fitness and another selection process as a test to commitment to moral governance. And as well as in Article 18 of the Civil Service Code of the Bangsamoro, that it shall include the inculcation of moral governance principles and practices when we speak of employee onboarding program. You can also take a look at Book 3 of the Conduct of Civil Servants, adherence to, this is under Article 170, Norms of Conduct of Civil Servants of the Bangsamoro government, where they pertain to adherence to moral governance and the application of commitment to moral governance that requires, here it's included again some of the new elements, principles that requires a sense of ikhlas, sincerity, perfection, itkaan, excellence, and optimism of the faul. Now, as well as in upholding the moral governance, you can also take a look at Article 171. So there is a certain kind of evolution of the legal definition of moral governance from the Admin Code to the Civil Service Code. Um, With regards to the application in government programs, you can take a look at many of the mission, vision, and strategic goals of ministries, offices, agencies of the Bangsamoro. For example, and for instance, I'm going to provide an example here that the mission of the Bangsamoro Secretariat of the Transition Authority, that in its mission that as parliamentary professionals, we are committed to providing optimal support, services, etc., and in pursuit of genuine and meaningful autonomy and moral governance. Here, they also included as part of their strategic goal under number 6, the cross-cutting themes that uh, there should be an instilled moral governance with genuine and meaningful autonomy. Here also as well, it is also accorded that all employees, let me check if there are some messages. There are also that all employees in the Bangsamoro government must also as well undergo what we call VTT and DET, the values transformation training and values enhancement training, where it is primarily all about Islamic. So it's an orientation to people to gain access and knowledge to Islamic principles. Um, as well as one program of the previous chief minister under the Office of the Chief Minister support to local moral governance program, where these support to local moral governance aims to empower the constituent local government units to effectively participate in the regional governance process, improve basic utilities and facilities, support the quality of life, and making Guam a livable place to every Bangsamoro region. So these are all well-funded programs under the Bangsamoro government, especially the support to local moral governance program. So I think I will stop here. As you can see that as we move from the idea beforehand in 2019, and then I provided some theoretical principles, how it was also well embedded and well explicitly pronounced under the Bangsamoro Organic Law, and how they applied the moral governance in terms of policy making, in their legislation making, and also uh, uh, included in the programs, funded programs of the different ministries, offices, agencies across Bangsamoro governance. So I will stop here and thank you for listening, and also looking forward to our open forum after. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nassef. Quite an interesting presentation on moral governance. I'm very much sure that some of our participants do have questions, specifically on how it's implemented, is it enough and all, but we'll have that discussion at the open forum in a bit. So now we proceed with the second topic with our lecturer who will discuss the topic on achieving Bangsamoro sustainable environmental development, a cornerstone to exercising right to self-determination. So we'd like to welcome Dr. Abdul Jalil Umngan, who is a registered forester and environmental planner by profession, a proud graduate of the Mindanao State University Marawi campus. He holds twin master's degree in sustainable environmental development with management studies from Kingston University in London and PhD in urban and regional development administration from the University of Southeastern Philippines in Davao City, with a novel dissertation entitled Freedom Fighters to Forest Frontiers: Developing a Sustainable Forest Management Model for Bangsamoro Peace Building, with flying colors when he submitted this. Said study serves as a main reference in crafting a Bangsamoro forestry code and strategic direction of sustainable development and forestry sector in the BARM. Arguably, he is the lone Filipino forester who got the prestigious Schilling Scholarship Program of the United Kingdom government. He's also a recipient of numerous international awards that led him to global advanced studies in sustainable development through executive courses in the US, Japan, South Africa, Taiwan, Kuwait, to name a few. A visiting lecturer of the MSU Maguindanao for Advanced Study, he now serves as the director of the Forest Management Services at the Ministry of Environment, Natural Resources, and Energy of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. Dear colleagues, participants, let's now give a warm round of applause to Dr. Abdul Jalil Umngan. Dr. Jal, can you hear us?
Thank you, Ron,
Okay, there you
for
go.
the generous introduction. I'm struggling because I'm here in the field, actually. I'm here in Tawi-Tawi validating the
Okay.
numerous programs and projects that we have been implementing, particularly mangrove rehabilitation. So, yeah,
No
my
worries. Okay.
video is kind of mess. I'm here in the corner of our rented office here, so bear with me, guys.
Okay.
Can somebody share my presentation?
To our tech team, can we assist Dr. Jal on the presentation? There you go. Again, we give the floor to you now, Dr. Jal.
Thank you again, Ron. Yeah. Chairman LC, President Irene, fellow speakers for today, Dr. Nasif, and Attorney Seds, friends from different universities, organizations here and abroad. Ladies and gentlemen, good day. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Greetings from Tawi-Tawi, the far, far away land. So the topic given to me is achieving Bangsamoro sustainable environmental development, a cornerstone to exercising right to self-determination. The content of my presentation will be introduction. Next, please. Introduction, the Bangsamoro sustainable development, and I will zoom into the sustainable forest management. Next, please. So what are the importance of environment and natural resources in the context of Bangsamoro? We have over 3,000 kilometers coastline, and if you talk about that, we have the rich and handful mega biodiversity. And if you look at the map on your right-hand side, it is strategically located at the heart of Coral Triangle, which is the mega biodiversity across the globe. And it is naturally the regulator for the Coral Triangle. If you look at particularly the Moro Gulf, Sulu Sea, and the Sulawesi Sea, they interchange the waters there that gives natural regulation for the for that area, at least on the biodiversity, and it keeps the biodiversity more healthy. We have 80 million hectares of territorial ocean waters and 1.3 million hectares of land. 48% of that, or 669,000 hectares, is considered forest land under forest land classification. It is close to Nusantara, the new Indonesian capital, with shared belief and culture with the Bangsamoro. So in terms of proximity, we have that advantage. And you know, Indonesia is considered as the big brother of the ASEAN, the biggest market in the Southeast Asia. We also hold the Lake Lanao for the cheapest hydroelectric power that electrifies the entire island region of Mindanao. And the Mindanao River, which is the largest river in Mindanao and second watershed area in the Philippines. We also hold the contiguous dipterocarp forest that is considered as the backbone of forest in the different 5 level of forests in the world. What is the significance of this? We hold at least terrestrial biodiversity that is waiting to be discovered. The other one is it saves us from the extreme negative impact of change. Another thing is because we have that huge number of kilometers coastline and hectares of territorial ocean waters, it's no wonder that we are contributing 18% of the national fisheries. And in fact, if you check the statistics, I guess we are the number one producer of marine production, particularly in the Basilan, Sulu, and Tawid for the last 3 years already. And we've got 73% contribution to national seaweed production, owing to the production of tawi-tawi. Next, please. So when you hear of sustainable development, what comes to your mind first? Of course, it's the harmonious balance between economic expansion, social equity, and environmental protection. And per UNCED, other definition is the capacity of this current generation to utilize equitably the natural resources that we have right now, and as well as the capacity of the next generations to use the same resources. Next, please. From that 3 domains, it evolves into now 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals that aims to end poverty, protection of the Earth's environment and climate, and ensure that people elsewhere can live peace and prosperity. So it evolves from that 3 domain into peace, institutional partnership, and everything, including the city, zero hunger, and everything. Next, please. Now, moving on to the word peace building. According to Johan Galton's positive peace theory, he said that the peace can be achieved not only by the mere absence of violence, but with different meaning of peace. This has been supported by John Paul Didorac's peace building theory, who emphasizes the significance of the contribution from the top leadership, middle, and grassroots leadership, both sides between the rebels and the formal government. Next, please. So, ano ba talaga ang grievances ng Bangsamoro? We have lists, number of Bangsamoro grievances. And I will just mention, sorry, hindi pala naka... Can you see me o walang... Wala po bang video? Sensya na ha. Okay, sige. All right, sige. According to Father Archbishop Quevedo, the problem of Mindanao is the deprivation of the national government to exercise their belief, exercise their practice, and right to self-govern themselves. That's the one of the triggering factors why both the Moro Islamic Liberation Front and the national government signed an agreement and articulated through Republic Act 11054. This has been supported by yet another very important research conducted by former mayor of General Santos City in the name of Mayor Colibas Nunez in 1992 when she wrote the the thesis on the root causes of conflict in Mindanao. And she found out that there is a thick stereotyping and discrimination against the Mindanaoans. And she is more surprised that this the one who's culprit of stereotyping and discriminating against a group of people, particularly the Lumans and the Muslims, the Bangsamoro, are the people who are coming from the north, and we call it the settlers. Moving forward, there is a study conducted by the World Bank Joint Needs Assessment, published in 2005, saying that the core problem of Mindanao is historical injustice. This was actually became part of mantra of the former president during his campaign period, acknowledging that indeed the problem in Mindanao is the historical injustices that translated into social exclusion, the suppression of practices and traditional customs, deprivation of basic amenities. Of course, you have on the list the extreme poverty and the deprivation of access to land and natural resources, and of course, the perceived absence of governance and the basic delivery of services. This has been exacerbated by clan war or RIDO, the election disputes, the unending election disputes. Pagkatapos ng election natin ay mayroon na kaagad disputes that actually help proliferates the armed conflict in Mindanao, particularly in the Bangsamoro. We have on the list also the competition for scarce resources and opportunities, the proliferation of armed groups and paramilitary groups, the intertribal conflict. Next, please. So what is really the sustainable development in the Bangsamoro, given that you have that dark backdrop of the Bangsamoro? So sustainable development in the context of Bangsamoro is about correcting that historical injustices that I have been mentioning, and serve the social justice and well-being, respect to cultural belief and practices, functioning governance, environmental integrity, and economic progress. Next, please. Let me define first the social justice as articulated in Republic Act 1105, Article 4, Section 7, that states that the Bangsamoro government shall ensure every Filipino citizen in its territorial jurisdiction the provision of the basic necessities and equal opportunities in life. Social justice shall be promoted in all aspects of life and development in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region. Pasensya na, ito po yung provision that ensures that the social justice is to be served to the Bangsamoro constituency, be it settlers, Muslims, or Lumans. Ano po ang napapaloob sa social justice, the Bangsamoro Organic Law, or the same law that I have stated, the 11054? These are the basic services, housing and human settlements, rights of labor, participation of women in the Bangsamoro government, protection of women, rights of the youth, rights of children and settler community. Next, please. The same law states that the parliament should create a Bangsamoro Sustainable Development Board that should be composed of both national government and the Bangsamoro government. I'm not going to dwell more on this. Next, please, sorry. And next, please. And the Bangsamoro government shall also develop a comprehensive framework for sustainable development through the proper conservation, utilization, and development of the natural resources, which shall guide it in adopting program and policy mechanisms that's focused on the environmental dimension of social and economic interventions. It shall include measures for environmental justice and governance, as well as for the reduction of the vulnerability of women and marginalized groups to climate change and variability. It is the penultimate, next please, it is the penultimate goal of the Bangsamoro government to protect and improve the lives of inhabitants. Yan naman talaga yung basic goal of every government. Next po. Through the signing of the peace agreement and the enactment of the Republic Act 11054, the national government has given power, authority, and right to the Bangsamoro government to explore, develop, and utilize all natural resources, be it surface or subsurface. Also has the right for the renewable and non-renewable resources and declare protected areas, with the caveat of maintaining the ecological balance and the biodiversity by protecting, conserving, rehabilitating, and developing our forest, coastal, and marine resources. Next, please, po. So here's the conceptual framework of the Bangsamoro Sustainable Development. In principle, again, sustainable development has three pillars: the environment, economic, and social. But because of the unique dynamic of the Bangsamoro with the heavy backdrop of historical injustices, the sectors that must be composed of sustainable development are environmental vicegerency, social justice and well-being, respect to culture and belief, and economic prosperity. In principle, these four components are interwoven. Central to these four components is moral governance, represented by letter MG. While MG and four sectors are inseparable, they normally differ in value system. Characterized by different priorities and biases, the value system of each sector is symbolized by a vector or an arrow, which also represents a force. As each force pulls towards a certain direction, it creates a tension with the other three opposite forces. And when opposite forces react to the tension and likewise pull to different directions, it creates a highly dynamic and constantly moving model. In order to ease the tension, balance among the various opposite forces must be constantly sought, and that's the moral governance role. As represented in this figure, when the four forces are equal, it generates an ideal state of an equilibrium where the summation of all forces is zero. If the governance system is well functioning, the absorptive capacity of the constant changes as is strong, the four components work in a stable manner. Next, please. Zooming into my services or bureau, my principal gave me an instruction to, from that very comprehensive framework, conceptual framework of the Bangsamoro Sustainable Development, my principals instructed me to begin with the forest, and I got an opportunity to use the instruction as my dissertation in completing my PhD. And the title of my dissertation is Freedom Fighters to Forest Frontiers, Developing Sustainable Forest Management Model for Bangsamoro Peacebuilding. So the result of, bilisan ko na lang po ha, baka naubos na yung oras ko. The result of my dissertations, we were able to came up with these 7 areas of concern to achieve the Bangsamoro Sustainable Forest Management. First on the list is the economic sustainability and livelihood development within the forest land classification, both protection and production forest land. The other one is the community empowerment, governance and institutional support. Fourth is integration of science and indigenous practices. Fifth is cultural and religious influence in the conservation and management of the forest. Sixth is cross-border and regional collaboration. And we're talking particularly with regions 9, 10, and 12, and as far as Malaysia and Indonesia in the case of Basilan, Sulu, and Tawi-Tawi for the international collaboration. Last is the acknowledgement of the important roles of national non-government organizations and other partners. We conducted this, since this is a non-experimental exploratory sequential research design, we conducted it using a mixed method approach, starting with the qualitative. We conducted KII, key informant interviews, focus group discussions, and try to triangulate the issue and prove the area of concerns using the quantitative aspect. And for the quantitative aspect, the star there is the 6 recognized MILF camps in the negotiating table with the national government. Excuse me? Hello? Okay. Sige. So we have 6 study area, 3 in Maguindanao del Norte, and 3 in Lanao del Sur that represent the whole population. So these are the sample studies. The next, please. Yan po yung kaninang sinasabi ko. Sige, next po. And these are the areas. We just included the climate change adaptation and strategies. Taking from that framework, we actually already prepared our strategic action plan for Bangsamoro Forest. And we came up with these 7 areas coming from that framework. We just included climate change adaptation strategies. So all the interventions that we are introducing and collaborating with the local government units and other partners such as the regions 9, 10, and 12, the DNR national, we are guided by this framework and the strategic action plan. Next, please. And from that science-based study, we believe that in order for us to have a robust and future-proof policy formulation, we need to take off from science. And from that dissertation, we're able to formulate a Bangsamoro Forestry Code finalization. This was conducted last. Actually, we have been doing this exercise since I joined the Bangsamoro in 2000. We conceptualize it and we begin with the write-up consultation, series of consultations in 2023. Thanks to the partners such as the UNDP, Forest Foundation, and the Asia Foundation. Next, please. We, as one of the approaches in implementing our strategic action plan, we adopted the Bangsamoro Forest Land Use Plan. It's a comprehensive plan that would guide the co-management between a certain municipal local government units and the Bangsamoro Ministry of Environment as a regional autonomous government body who will monitor, implement, monitor, and making sure that the interventions that we are introducing on the ground serves its purpose effectively and efficiently. Next, please. So ito naman po ang evidence na ginawa po namin yung 10-year strategic action plan for the Bangsamoro Forest. I'll stop here. Thank you for your attention. Sanggibu, salamat, syukran. And again, thank you. I mean, I'm very excited to hear some of the clarifications and engaging discussions later. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jal. Definitely may mga questions po tayo, no? But siguro, without preempting, no, our open forum, baka you would like to ask you a question or two. So now you're in the implementation stage or finalization stage of the sustainable plan, no? Um, when do we see this happening, or when do we see this being implemented as soon as the framework is finalized, Dr. Jal?
Okay, wait ha. I'm juggling with the two gadget actually.
Okay.
Nanghihiram lang po. Kaya pasensya na, nalilito ako.
Walang
Sige.
problema. Sige. But I would like to
Okay.
know, so what's in store? Ano yung mga, kailan ang implementation na mismo, or we're still in the finalization of the framework?
We're still in the finalization of the framework itself, but as to the principles such as the moral governance, the Al Khalifa, which is the moral governance aspect of managing our environment, we have been guided with that basic tenets of Islam of conserving and managing our environment. But as to comprehensively, putting all together, we've been doing it bit by bit, such as, for instance, the forest aspect. We're done with that. The other sectors, since this is really really comprehensive, they have been doing their own assignment of making their sustainable, for instance, sustainable human development, sustainable delivery of social justices, as I have presented. Yeah, we've been guided by the tenets of the sustainable Bangsamoro Sustainable Development while we are putting them all together. By the way, it's an intergovernmental relations. I've mentioned we are working with the NEDA, now DepDep, being the counterpart in the national level.
I see. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Jal. I guess we'll have more question after this when we call on our three lecturers for the open forum. But we may now proceed with the next topic. Our last but not the least in terms of topic discussion, to discuss the challenge of durable solutions for internally displaced persons, or IPs, in the BARM. We'd like to call on Attorney Cecilia Jimenez Damari, a former United Nations Special Rapporteur on the human rights of internally displaced persons. She's a lawyer in human rights and international humanitarian law, specializing in forced displacement and migration. Attorney Cecilia, or Sej, has over 3 decades of experience in NGO human rights advocacy for the Asia-Pacific region and teaching experience as an adjunct professor of international human rights and humanitarian law. Attorney Jimenez Damari previously acted as senior legal advisor and trainer with the Internal Displacement Monitoring Center, or IDMC, of the Norwegian Refugee Council in Geneva. She's also the national director of the IDP project of the Commission on Human Rights of the Philippines, and as well as a government representative to the Philippine Transitional Justice and Reconciliation Commission for the Bangsamoro. Attorney Sej is currently a senior professional lecturer at the De La Salle University, teaching the politics of peace and development in Mindanao, transitional justice, and public international law. Our dear colleague, let's now welcome Attorney Cecilia Jimenez Damari.
Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat.
Good morning.
Hi. Thank you very much, first of all, to the current officers of the Alumni Foundation. And thanks, Ron, for the able moderation. I also wanted to refer to the previous two speakers, no? Si Nasef and si Jal, for that excellent rendition of the respective issues and topics that they shared with us this morning. Kasi tamang-tama matutungtungan ko yung kanilang mga presentations. So I was asked to actually present the situation of internally displaced persons, hindi IPs, IDPs, okay? Of which kasama rin ang IPs, unfortunately. So let me just share my presentation, and I will also actually be sharing 2 videos along the way. Okay. All right. Si President Irene pala, King's College London din. We're co-alumni in the same same college, Irene. Okay. All right. So let me first introduce to you the concept of internally displaced persons before we go to the issues that we're supposed to be looking at. Okay, let me just share the video itself para klaro. Andali lang. Okay. So this video will actually show you the international definition of who is an internally displaced persons based on the UN Guiding Principles of Internal Displacement. Welcome to the video series on the Guiding Principles on Internal Displacement, why and how they matter. I am Cecilia Jimenez de Mari, the United Nations Special Rapporteur on the Human Rights of Internally Displaced Persons. In the previous video, we discussed the rationale of the guiding principles and its background. And today, we will discuss the important question of who is an internally displaced person, or IDP. I suggest that you have a copy of the guiding principles with you at hand. Why is it important to know who is an IDP? Remember that we are in the context of the spectrum of mobility, internally displaced persons, refugees, and migrants. And the guiding principles provide protection for a specific group of all within this spectrum who are internally displaced persons. The guiding principles provide a descriptive and non-legal nature of the term IDP. And for purposes of these principles, we start with the definition. They are person or persons, groups of persons who are forced or obliged to flee, and therefore there is a forcible or non-voluntary nature to their flight, and they flee or leave their homes or habitual residences. It is important to note that in the definition of who they are, Principle 2 of Paragraph 1 actually provides that the application of the definition and the principles is irrespective of their legal status and without any adverse distinction. But why do they flee? Why do they leave their habitual places of residence and homes? The guiding principles also provides causes for this. In particular, it says, as a result of or to avoid the effects of armed conflict, situations of generalized violence, violations of human rights, natural disasters, or man-made disasters, and who have not crossed an international border. It is important to note these particular causes because each particular cause is governed either by international human rights law or international humanitarian law, or both. Now, one of the pending questions on the determination of who is an IDP is the issue of registration against legal status or status determination. Being an IDP is not a legal status because internally displaced persons as citizens or as habitual residents of that country, actually that is enough for the basis, as a basis for the protection of the state. And the guiding principles lists those rights related to their displacement. International law provides that displacement is a factual state. and therefore registration may only be useful to identify the needs and the protection rights of the IDPs concerned. And if there is no registration, lack of such registration would not deprive internally displaced persons of their entitlements under human rights and humanitarian law. I hope that this definition of who is an internally displaced person is very useful to your purposes, and the guiding principles is very clear on who they are.
Okay.
The guiding principles will be discussed in the next videos, and these are the different parts of the guiding principles.
Okay. So, okay na tayo doon. All right. So, hopefully, naman, no, sino yung pinag-uusapan natin? And I now would like to move on to my presentation on internal displacement, the current status, and of course, eventually focusing on the BARM. So, alam na natin yung definition, and I can talk a whole day about this, but we won't do that. Pero let me just give you, no, when we talk about internally displaced persons, this is the latest report, a global report. Actually, more than refugees, ang IDPs worldwide. There are over 83.4 million people living in situations of internal displacement in 117 countries. So makikita natin dyan yung milyon, no, na mga internal displacement, mga movements. And of course, lumabo ito, not lumabo, lumobo ito because of Palestine. There are 3.2 million IDPs in Palestine, mainly in Gaza. And we have, of course, DRC, which has always been one of the biggest, 9.1 million. Lebanon, 1.1 million. Kadami, no? And these are all because of armed conflict, natural disasters, and usually yun lang yung minomonitor natin. Only about armed conflict, violence, and natural disasters. But we also have unknown number due to other causes, particularly about development projects. In fact, my last report to the UN General Assembly in 2022 was on internal displacement due to development aggression. And I would like, of course, to refer particularly to internal displacement also in the Philippines, not just on armed conflict, but also natural disasters, but also development aggression. In fact, from 2008 to 2022, sa Pilipinas, we had an estimated of 3.2 million internal displaced. Ito yung mga movements, no? And in fact, in 2022, we shot up in the global statistics with the second highest number of IDPs, and most forced displacements were due to conflict and violence that occurred in the Bangsamoro autonomous region of Muslim Mindanao within this period. So let's now go to internal displacement in the BARM. Historically, the most number of IDPs and internal displacement have been recorded in the Muslim areas of Mindanao. And the causes have been vertical, mainly because of armed conflict between the state and the various armed groups. And there have also been horizontal causes, and that is community violence and RIDO. In any case, whatever the causes are, human rights violations really abounded, communities dispersed. I remember in one of my field interviews, may nakausap akong lola na Bangsamoro. Sabi ko, ilang beses na ba ho kayong nagbakwit? Kasi bakwit yung kwento natin, no? Ay, ano niyan? Para sa kanya, it's a regular phenomenon. It's a regular operation. Pero sabi ko nga, pero hindi ba dapat na hindi kayo magbabakwit? And she, of course, expressed the aspiration, the wish that whatever she experienced won't happen anymore for her children and particularly her grandchildren. Now, after the establishment of the BARM, internal displacement persisted despite cessation of vertical violence kasi may horizontal violence na hanggang ngayon nangyayari pa rin. Of course, we saw the Marawi siege in 2017 and that was 400,000, no, approximate number of IDPs who fled Marawi city. Now, currently, at least as of the end of 2024, we have an estimated still 92,000 IDPs in BARM, of which approximately still remain from the Marawi siege. Now, remember, these are statistics, but beyond the statistics, we have to also see, one, that these are statistics that actually cover those who were considered displaced as of the end of last calendar year. Pero hindi nito tinitake into consideration yung multiple displacements, which is actually the norm in Muslim Mindanao. And of course, we still have the 80,000 that still remain from the Marawi siege. So, quick lang to, no? Ito yung mga IOM statistics. So, makita natin 2017, biglang tumaas yung armed conflict. That was definitely because of the Marawi siege. And in 2024, we have yung armed conflict bumaba, pero may clan feud pa rin, and of course, crime and violence. So ito naman yung total of displacements, no? And this is where I would like to refer to yung multiple displacements. When it comes to the number of internal displacements, no? Hindi yung IDPs na tao, makikita natin Maguindanao del Sur has the biggest, no? And this is has the largest number of movements due to internal displacement in 2024. So ito, recorded displacement, again, over approximately, ang nakalagay dito is 76,000, but we do think it's more, no? So from the Ministry of Social Services and Displacement, fast forward tayo again to 2024. Here we have the breakdown of the armed conflict incident distribution percentage per province. And here you will see that again, Maguindanao del Sur has the largest pie, unfortunately for everybody, with regard to armed conflict incidents. Pakirap. Sorry. Okay. Pakirap lang take home ko. Okay, sorry. And yung most pressing protection issues actually, again, according to the Ministry of Social Services and Development, are four, no? Physical safety and security, access to livelihood, food and non-food items, access to water, sanitation and hygiene, and access to education and protection of children affected by armed conflict. Lalong-lalo na makikita natin that the children, of course, whenever they get displaced, they are automatically deprived of education and safety that used to be stably provided by the family and the community to which they belong. So let's go to the key concepts of international law, no? Because international law actually recognizes internal displacement situations as situations that need the protection of the state. Kaya primary responsibility for the protection of IDPs still lie with the state. Sino yun? Obviously, it's the Republic of the Philippines. And right now, of course, my parallel, sorry. Okay, and the parallel, what do you call this? The parallel responsibility of the BARM government. Now, part and parcel of the key concepts in international law is non-discrimination of the application of human rights. Kasi porke IDP sila, hindi sila dapat ma-discriminate because they are, as I said in the definition of IDP, citizens or habitual residents of the territorial jurisdiction who and under whom the state and its various agencies through the executive and other branches are supposed to provide human rights protection. And this protection is not only for everybody. However, we know in any case that the IDPs are not homogeneous. No, we've got children, PWDs, mothers with small children, and elderly. The guiding principles, which I referred to in the video, actually provides that there has to be affirmative protection for the most vulnerable people. And consideration, mind you, very, very relevant din to sa BARM, consideration for those with special affinity with the land and resources. And I would like to actually point out that this is very particular in the BARM as far as the indigenous peoples are concerned. I'm very happy that BARM now has an IP code to protect the IP's rights kasi human rights based din siya. But with the 102nd death na pinugutan na naman ang isang IP leader within the BARM, it really behooves us to really look closely into the situation of indigenous peoples in the BARM so that the BARM code will not just be rhetoric, but will actually be implemented. And makikita natin later that displacement in the indigenous people's lands are one of the 3 areas in BARM where this is most serious. And of course, last but not the least is durable solutions. So ito yung UN guiding principles on internal displacement. Now, hindi lang naman international law ang nangingibabaw sa protection and durable solutions of IDPs. We do have Philippine legal frameworks, a constitution, of course, that applies to everybody without discrimination. We have the ratification of UN human rights treaties and the Geneva Conventions kapag may armed conflict. We have Philippine legislation relating to disaster management. However, for almost 2 decades, we have been trying with UNHCR and other international agencies and civil society and IDPs from the various parts of the Philippines. We have been trying to push for the adoption and eventual legislation of IDP protection. And this IDP protection bill has been languishing in the House and in the Senate. In around 2014, I think, or 15, muntik-muntikan na nga makapasa. Actually, it was first vetoed by Aquino, and then we were able to put it back until the Senate, and it got squashed in the Senate at the last minute. So here we are trying again to push for a national IDP protection law. Now, in the BARM, fortunately, we do have some parallel or new legislation that are actually very relevant to the protection of IDPs. The first one is, of course, the BOL, specifically Article 10. We also have BARM frameworks related to internal displacement responses, disaster law, development plan, etc. And naunahan pa ng BARM ang national level. BARM actually has a Bangsamoro Act, BAA, number 62 on the rights of IDPs. And this was adopted in 2004, 2005. And ngayon lang talaga inuumpisahan ang application. Interestingly, several BARM municipalities have also passed their own ordinances on IDP protection. So there are around 9 municipalities in BARM who have done so. So kudos to those local government units, which of course we as advocates for IDP protection rights fully support. And last but not the least, we have the Marawi Compensation Board for the Marawi siege IDPs, specifically for the for the provision of compensation for damaged properties during the Marawi siege, but also for those who lost their loved ones. And the Marawi Compensation Board is very significant in this context of the Philippine legal frameworks. Why? Because they actually help provide conditions for durable solutions. So ano ba yung BARM BAA 62, no? As I said, kudos to the BARM and particularly to the principal proponents in the BTA. And I would like to cite Minister Raisa Jajuri for her leadership in pushing the BARM BAA 62 and also as well supported by Minister Liza Alamia. So the BARM BAA 62 is an act promoting and protecting the rights of IDPs in the BARM. And the key concept here is that it provides a comprehensive human rights protection of IDPs as found in both international and Philippine law. It covers the following state obligations.
Tambay lang ha, tinatapos ko lang yung quiz ninyo.
Hello,
But,
Edgar, can you please mute yourself? Edgar. All right. Now, yeah, nag-mute tuloy ang lahat ng mga participants. Okay, can you hear me now? Okay na? All right. And the BARM BAA 62 covers the following state obligations: prevention of arbitrary displacement, yung causes of internal displacement na arbitrary, and this is also covered by international law. And I also have a specific report in the UN General Assembly on prevention of arbitrary displacement in armed conflict. So yung mga gustong mag-aral pa more about this, you can consult my report to the GA. And it also covers the protection and promoting IDP rights, especially during internal displacement. Kita naman natin, napakadami pa ring tao, for example, who flew the Marawi siege, who are right now still in transitional shelters. And of course, home-based ang karamihan din sa kanila, and they could not go back to their place of origin at all. And we have to look for facilitating durable solutions. The BARM BAA 62 also provides that. Now, durable solutions is a key concept in internal displacement protection and promotion of the rights of IDPs. And we look at it as all of these: humanitarian, peace building, development, and transitional justice. And in this case, I would like again to show a very short video of 4 minutes on how durable solutions are achieved. Sorry, mali yan. Hold on. Mali pala yun. Sandali lang ha, nawawala kasi. Okay, there we go. Okay, mukhang, okay, I found it. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the video series on guiding principles on internal displacement, why and how they matter. I'm Cecilia Jimenez de Mari, the UN Special Rapporteur on the human rights of IDPs. In the previous video, we discussed Principle 29 on returned and resettled IDPs. However, in this video, I would like to introduce to you the IASC framework on durable solutions for IDPs. Having a copy of the IASC framework with you may be useful. In order that we are kept updated on the issue of durable solutions for internally displaced persons, allow me to introduce to you the Interagency Standing Committee Framework on Durable Solutions for IDPs, which was finalized in 2010 after extensive collaboration and consultations among humanitarian, human rights, and development actors working on solutions in internal displacement contexts. This IASC framework is an elaboration of the guiding principles 28 to 23 and provides clarity on the concepts of what is a durable solution and provides general guidance on how to achieve it. First of all, the framework provides that a durable solution is achieved when IDPs no longer have any specific assistance or protection needs that are linked to their displacement and can enjoy their human rights without discrimination on account of their displacement. It reaffirms that this can be achieved through the three settlement options. One, sustainable reintegration at the place of origin or return, or sustainable local integration in areas where IDPs have taken refuge, also called local integration, or last of the three, sustainable integration in another part of the country, also termed settlement elsewhere in the country. However, these settlement options do not necessarily amount to a durable solution unless due regard is given to conditions that facilitate the achievement of the following criteria, which determine to what extent a durable solution is achieved without discrimination. First is long-term safety, security, and freedom of movement, followed by an adequate standard of living, including at the minimum access to adequate food, water, housing, healthcare, and basic education. Third, access to employment and livelihoods. And fourth, access to effective mechanisms that restore their housing, land, and property, or provide them with compensation. These four criteria are complemented by the following other four criteria as follows. Access to and replacement of personal and other documentation, voluntary reunification with family members separated during displacement, participation in public affairs at all levels on an equal basis with the resident population, and last but not the least, effective remedies for displacement-related violations, including access to justice, reparations, and information about the causes of violations. As you would have gleaned by now, these criteria are innate in already discussed principles in protection during displacement, and they are based on human rights and international humanitarian law. Because of the multifaceted elements to achieve durable solutions, the process is seen as to be a combination of human rights, humanitarian development, and peace approaches. Thanks for tuning in, and in the next video, we will cap the guiding principles on internal displacement with the very last one, number 30, on the role of authorities to humanitarian organizations. See you then.
Okay, sandali, all right. Okay, so I hope that that was interesting for all of you.
I just wanted to I wanted to make sure that you see those videos kasi yung mga videos na yan nagpapakita dun sa international legal basis with regard to the key concepts that are applicable to us right now. So ang problema na nangyayari ngayon sa BARM is that we have what we call a protracted displacement situation of IDPs in the BARM. So we have to take that into consideration if we are really approaching this with the aim of having durable solutions for IDPs. So what is protracted displacement? OCHA actually provides this definition. And it's a long-term situation where people are forced to flee their homes, obviously. However, they remain in a precarious and unresolved state for many years without finding a durable solution, like returning home, local integration, resettlement, with any of the criteria that we have just discussed. Obviously, Marawi IDPs, ilang taon na ngayon? It has been 8 years. And so Marawi, unfortunately, has now been, deemed to be a protracted displacement. So according to IOM, significant numbers pa rin, and we have the data of protracted IDPs are still displaced. And this is actually in 3 areas, no? One is Marawi City, obviously, and then Moro and non-Moro IPs, and also in the municipalities of South UP, Datu Hofer, and Datu Odin Sinuat, which is the so-called SPMS area. So we have attempted, and pina-finalize pa yung report, to have a comprehensive assessment profiling. So draft status pa rin to, and this is a project supported by the UN Peace Building Fund in New York. And hindi siya humanitarian, pero talagang durable solutions within the context of peace building. And this is being implemented by the IOM, UNHCR, UNDP, and covering conflict-induced internal displacement in the BARM. So this project assesses durable solutions criteria in Marawi, in the non-Moro IP areas, and in the so-called SPMS. So very important. Hopefully we'll be able to finish the project soon so that we can actually publicize the results. But for now, what is obvious, from all the discussions and from all the discourse is that we really have to concentrate on the attainment of these durable solutions criteria for IDPs. Kitang-kita natin na these criteria to measure durable solutions are grievously inadequate in the BARM. Una-una, long-term safety, security, and freedom of movement, for example, is just one big problem, and the rest as well. No, kita naman natin. So remember that when we talk about durable solutions, we're also talking about preferred settlement options and principal issues of IDPs in BARM. Although return to the place of origin does not automatically mean you have achieved a durable solutions. You really have to go back. Okay, punta ka sa place of origin mo, that is a mere settlement option. But how are your criteria in terms of durable solutions, as you see on the screen? So from what we know for now, majority, of course, of the IDPs still prefer to return to the place of origin. Preferred option of majority of IDPs, hindi lang sa Pilipinas. In my pag-iikot and evaluation and monitoring of internal displacement worldwide, this is still the preferred option of the majority. But this has to be based on informed decisions and hindi pwedeng pilitin kasi preferences to. Now, for those who really would like to go back to the place of origin, anong issues nila? Mainly security and safety from the recurrence of violence, housing, land and property, recuperation, okay? Or if not, compensation. Kaya mahalaga yung Marawi Compensation Board, and also access to livelihoods. For those who prefer local integration, that is, ay, dito na lang kami titira, no? Dito na lang kayo magsisettle wherever they have found refuge. Nevertheless, their main issues are safety from violence and discrimination, financial security, housing and stability, and access to livelihoods. And for those who would like to go elsewhere in the country, I have met Maranao people in El Nido, for example. Doon sila nagtitinda. So again, that's their preferred option. And main issues talaga ng mga IDPs who prefer to settle elsewhere in the country are financial security, adequate standard of living, and access to livelihood. These are issues na hindi basta-basta pwedeng i-ignore, no? Because this actually is part and parcel of the governance jurisdiction of the BARM and the Republic of the Philippines. So, last slide na to. What I would like to really recommend, what we are advocating for, is when we're doing durable solutions, policies, and programming, dapat talaga database. This is the reason that we have the comprehensive assessment profiling that it's being undertaken. And una-una, we have to institutionalize programs and mechanisms. Hindi ayuda. Okay, dapat programmatic, dapat institutionalized ang mechanisms. And these should lead to the protection and durable solutions side by side, of course, together, no? Kasi syempre, we're talking about durable solutions, pero meron pa rin, and most of them are still in humanitarian situations requiring protection. And we have to really push for this in the context of peace building and development. Second, access by IDPs to mechanisms to restore their HLP and for justice-related issues. Okay, Marawi has that, but what about the others, other IDPs elsewhere in the BARM? Okay, this is going to be a big issue kasi ibig sabihin nito budget, no? Pangatlo, support initiatives to uplift standards of living of IDPs to lift them out of displacement-related situations. Number 4 is very close to my heart. When I was UN Special Rapporteur, my first theme was really participation of IDPs in decisions affecting them. First report ko yan sa UN General Assembly, and that actually characterized my whole UN Special Rapporteurship, and until now that I'm acting as IDP advisors to international organizations. So IDP public participation in communities to address these issues, and particularly we have to support women's leadership and participation. Last but not the least, BARM is very, it's in a great position because it has BAA 62, as I mentioned. So bago pa lang siya, no? And we also know that BARM is young, but we really would like to support as much as possible its implementation and to cascade this to LGUs for concrete rights-based programming. Dapat may budget allocation with strict monitoring. IDP participation is essential, and coordination of support by third parties, civil society, and international community. And why is this? Internal displacement durable solutions cannot be done alone. And this is like kung may whole of society approach, meron ding whole of international community approach when it comes to IDPs and durable solutions. So mahaba-haba pa ang pathway na tatahakin for durable solutions, and it's important that we start with the identification of the situation and the issues, and we need the data-based durable solutions policy
policies and programming with political will, of course, on the part of the political governance of the BARM and the national government are very much essential. And all in all, this has to be for the protection and promotion and guarantees of the human rights of internally displaced persons. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much, Attorney Sedge. Very, very informative. It's sometimes there are areas or learnings that we fail to capture, but given the expertise of our lecturer, talaga nakukuha natin. So now we'll have our open forum. We'll be calling on our other two lecturers to join Attorney Sedge here. We have Dr. Nassef and of course Dr. Jal to join us for the open forum. And siguro just to start the ball rolling, and I also want to remind everyone, please, if you have questions, just type them in the chat box so that we'll be able to read them. Kung hindi natin makuha later on, we'll definitely forward these questions to our subject matter experts. Unahin ko yung tanong. I think we still have Dr. Nassef here in the room, just to contextualize the direction for the Bangsamoro region, especially on moral governance, because if we all note with what's going on across the Philippines, issues of graft and corruption, and it's a real discussion out there. How can we prevent this from happening in BARM? How can we prevent corruption from happening in BARM, considering that the framework or the organic law already captures that moral governance that we are talking about? What else should we do rather to ensure that corruption will never be part of the fabric of this region? Dr. Nassef? I think you're on mute.
Hello? Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Thanks, Ron. So the question is, how can the Bangsamoro government prevent corruption now that they wanted to pursue moral governance? As I mentioned ago in my presentation, they included it and they actually integrated it within the funded programs. So the first being is to somehow change human philosophy, meaning that all employees of the Bangsamoro government must undergo a values transformation training and values enhancement training, as well as oath as an allegiance to moral governance. And in these trainings, they wanted to inculcate and instill Islamic principles, especially on doing good deeds and preventing harm and evilness. Now, with regards to funded programs, especially the OCM flagship program on support to local moral governance, it is primarily aiding communities to be part of the Bangsamoro community, especially those who are IPs and community settlers, providing aid and assistance in terms of economic and livelihood. What else? How to prevent corruption? They also integrated it within their own legislations. But it is a difficult question, really, when we speak of realities and what's happening on the ground, what's happening in the government. For now, I cannot provide a concrete answer or response whether corruption is being prevented until now. Probably in terms of audit or something that the national government can review some of the legislations and do a tasking of special audit to the financial transaction of the Bangsamoro. Now that we have seen in the past years that there is a big fund budget and yet there is a very low utilization rate, and yet every year the budget is increasing.
Right. Well,
Thank
thank you,
you.
Dr. Nassef. Yeah, that's a very I guess crucial question at this point because everyone's looking at the Bangsamoro region. It's a test case of how autonomy, how independence can be really given to the people on the ground. Dahil nga sa sobrang tagal na ng mga pinaglalaban, sa kaguluhan, sa peace issues on peace and security, ito na ba yung tamang framework to address the challenges on the ground. So I think that's one thing we'll be looking at as BARM progresses. Ididikit ko na rin yan sa issue ng development. Now that the Bangsamoro people are charting their own path, I guess to Dr. Jal, umangan here, on the issue of development, can we really strike a balance between environmental sustainability and the need to develop the Bangsamoro region at this point? Meaning, investors would like to come in, the commercialization of industries, for example. What will happen? Will there be a balance? Can we really strike a balance between environmental protection, sustainability, and then development?
Thank you, Ron. That's basically the reason why there is a need to set up the sustainable development for Bangsamoro to strike a balance in terms of social justice, respect to culture and heritage, environmental vicegerency, or the Al Khalifa in Arabic, or stewardship in the Christian faith, and the economic prosperity with equity. In the formulation of the framework, and hopefully will be done in the next few months. There are processes that needs to be followed by the investors. And mind you guys, those who are interested in pouring their investment in the Bangsamoro, I guess it would be easier for us in terms of doing business with the Bangsamoro because it's less bureaucratic than the national level. I'm not saying that national level is quite complicated, but I guess we know, or majority of us know the tedious process of complying with all the permits and licenses of different organizations and line agencies. But in the Bangsamoro, since we are within one complex, I guess it's easier for us to do business with us.
Thank you, Dr. Jal, because isa rin ho yan na tinitignan talaga, no? Kumbaga, there's just so much resources in Bangsamoro at this point, and the question on how we'll be able to, I guess, maximize gains while at the same time protecting the environment, because we do have cases where I think it has failed at most of the time at the expense of sa kalikasan natin ay napapabayaan natin sapagkat gusto natin maging progresibo, gusto natin umunlad ang ating bayan. So I guess for our participants here and listeners, especially students, not just law students, because beyond the legal framework, one needs to understand the impact of these legalities as well. No? So I go now to Attorney Sedge, on the IDPs, durable solution, still aligned with the issue on development. Can we further explore what you were talking about, Attorney Sedge, on development aggression? You did mention this particular term. What do you mean by this? Because kadalasan pag IDPs nga po, peace and security issue, di ba? Displacement due to natural disaster. Ano po yung development aggression na sinasabi?
Okay, thanks very much, Ron, for this question, no? Kasi ito yung mga isang hindi masyadong natitingnan na cause, and actually this has been cited definitely as a cause of arbitrary internal displacement. And when we say, actually the term development aggression comes from the Philippine experience, and it is a situation, alam mo naman tayo, lagi tayong pioneer, right?
Bida tayo lagi eh.
Lagi. And of course, this is human-made disasters is the generic term for this, of which we have development projects that are not for the social order or benefits the people of where it's being implemented. So yung development aggression, therefore, has come to mean projects or development approaches that are against the interests of the people themselves. So tingnan natin, no? Maybe going to different parts of the Philippines and abroad then, you have resorts that will be set up on indigenous people's lands or against the interest of the fishermen, lalo na yung mga nasa dagat, right? Or indigenous peoples mining, it's always a problem, whereby mining interests, mining projects are being implemented in indigenous people's lands. Dito lang sa Pilipinas, we have so many IPs being killed. We have so many environmental activists being harassed and killed because of their opposition to mining interest in the Philippines. Na walang consent ng mga indigenous peoples. And this is why it's important for us, particularly for IPs, no, since we're talking about it. Kasi madalas sila yung nagiging victims, no? We have a very, again, pioneer ang Pilipinas. We have the IPRA law, right? Pero yung IPRA law, actually, the IPRA law provides free, prior, and informed consent of the IDPs. Pero madalas, the FPIC is run roughshod in the implementation of mining projects. I mean, this is just an example, and there are others. So basically, that's the idea behind development.
I guess economic growth, economic development, hindi nakikita na ang nagiging effect nito is the displacement
Yeah.
of the people, no? So
And maybe, Ron, if I may just one sentence. I think in the end, the basic question is, for whom is this development being implemented?
Exactly. We always ask this, no? Who are the winners? I mean, who will be the winners of our policies, no? And the impact. Ako, I'm very much particular about impact then, no? Ibalik ko lang ulit kay Dr. John, no? May tanong tayo dito kasi, I guess, on the developmental balancing and all, now that Sulu is excluded in the Bangsamoro region, Dr. Jal, how will this affect the environmental development or the 10-year strategic plan as asked by one of our attendees?
The first point is we respect the issuance of the Supreme Court saying that Sulu opted not to join the BARMM and eventually it releases, the Malacanang releases Executive Order number 91. We respected that. And in fact, we are, at least for the MENRE, we are engaging with our counterpart, which is the DNR, in terms of how we can still collaborate closely, because the impact of environment, be it positive or negative, has no political boundary. You know that. Even the impact of climate change, the impact of climate change. So, as I have mentioned, this is one of the component of the intergovernmental relations with the national government. So, having said that, we are still closely working with our counterpart, the DepDep and the DNR, to be particular in terms of implementing and how we can strike the balance in this side of this corner of the country. So yeah, Sulu is still being considered as an important and vital part of our environment ecosystem. I hope I have answered your question.
Yeah, I mean, well, in the end, I mean, they're still part of the Philippines, and I guess environmental protection needs to be implemented, regardless of them being included, excluded in the Bangsamoro region, because I mean, we are all stewards of the land that where we are at. Attorney Sedge, balikan po kita kasi may mga ang dami ring tanong dito. Clarification on the legal ambiguities or gaps between international standards on IDPs and the current national regional frameworks in the Philippines, no? Meron bang mga legal ambiguities pa na naghihinder ng recognition and protection of IDPs in the country because iba yung sa international, iba yung sa Philippine definition.
Thanks for that question. No, I have to say that again, naunahan ng BARM ang national government, right? With the passing of BAA 62. And as I mentioned, hindi lang yon. Even at least 9 ordinances have been passed by various local government units within the BARM. So I think that because of the gravity and also the continuous problem throughout history of internal displacement, mukhang the BARM and its different components are really doing their best to enable the protection and guarantees of IDPs. What is good, actually, I really have to commend the BARM for this, is that the laws are rights-based. And this is exactly what international law provides, na kailangan rights-based ang protection. Kasi kung hindi rights-based, it will just be a matter of technical, aspirations, etc. However, in the end of the day, it really points to the duty of the state, of the BARM. Governance ang pinag-uusapan dito. Because in the end of the day, the primary role of the state is to protect IDPs. So in terms of gaps, of course, may mga konting hindi what we would call ambiguities, no? But in the end of the day, I think the BAA 62, having gone through a lot of consultation, a lot of conceptualization, is a law that provides a contextualized approach to internal displacement in the BARM. And this is what we need, per territorial jurisdiction.
That's right. Follow up on that one, Attorney Sedge. It was shared here that during the congressional hearing, no, on the Bangsamoro Organic Law, pinag-usapan yung possible exclusion or discrimination against indigenous people and non-Muslim people. In your assessment, how has BARM performed when it comes to that in ensuring that non-discrimination happens or we are protected against discrimination, especially for non-Moro people too?
I think that there are already a lot of studies and orientations, no, on the not only legal but moral responsibility of the BARM to protect anybody in the BARM. I like very much what Nasef said kanina, that one can look at the BARM as a mini tri-peoples. Kasi hindi lang Bangsamoro ang nasa BARM. We also have the Christian settlers and we have the indigenous peoples. And I think it's very important, no? Particularly for my students from De La Salle who are here. We have been studying the concept of tri-peoples in Mindanao. And the BARM is a mini example of that as well. And that is part of the challenges governing with regard to BARM governance. And again, kudos na napasa na finally yung IP code ng BARM. But again, it's very new and obviously passing legislation will not solve the problem of discrimination. You really have to have a programmatic policy and programmatic approach to basically have indigenous peoples, including IPs na Moros, non-Moro IPs, on an equal footing with the Bangsamoro and the rest of the population in the BARM. I would say, personally, BARM is not there yet. It's a big challenge, and the number of IP leaders, NMIP leaders being killed in the BARM since 2014 is actually not a good manifestation. Yun po.
Okay. So, maraming salamat, Attorney Sedge. may isa pang tanong dito. I think it was already addressed by Dr. Nassef, but it's also good to perhaps give him time to elaborate on this when it comes to the moral governance, no, on how exactly is it translated into the budgeting policies and practices of the Bangsamoro regional government. Attorney Sep, would you like to expound on that one, like moral governance translating to actual policies, practices of the BARM? Nakamute kaya ta Dr. Nasser yan. Ayan, I don't know if you can hear. Dr. Nessa, would you like to expound on that? Would you like to just quickly elaborate on paano nata-translate yung good governance, moral governance sa actual policies, budgeting process ng BARM? Hindi yata tayo marinig ni well, anyway, you can browse through it. Naririnig tayo. Nakamute ka ngayon. Yan. Okay.
Hello?
Yes, okay. We can
Because
hear you.
I've been trying to click on and then it says the host is not allowing me to unmute.
That's why. Okay. Now you can.
Yes. So aside from what I've stated that it is integrated in the two BAAs, the admin code, and also as well as in the civil service code, and in the trainings, sorry about that. Someone's calling me. Just
Okay,
a second. So the two core principles of Bangsamoro, moral governance, such as social ethics and common good, can be the foundational principles, especially on terms of communal benefits as well as trust. You cannot. You can only manifest and increase public trust if there is a quantum of good public services that the Bangsamoro regional government is providing. So I think I will just end here and later on I will expound it. I'm sorry because there was an important call that I need to attend to. Thank you.
No, thank you. No problem, Dr. Nasef. So at least, I guess for our students here, I hope the question has been answered by Dr. Nasef, no, on particular in this one. We are wrapping up. We just want to make sure that we cover all areas, possible areas. Again, for those who still have questions, feel free to type them in our chat box, and our team will definitely capture them. Ito very quick question lang to Dr. Jal and Attorney Sedge while Dr. Nasef is on the call. To our students listening at the moment, how can they, as law school students, for example, really support the development of BARM, no, in terms of protecting IDPs, ensuring environmental sustainability? Because kadalasan feeling nila ang layo-layo that they're just students, it's all academic within the four walls, corners of the classroom. How can they exactly support and help as we prepare for more challenges in the future? Attorney Sedge, would you like to answer that quickly?
Okay, very quickly. Let me give you an anecdote. When Mama Sapano happened, one of the shocking moments for me, kasi Mama Sapano, right, was
Yes.
reading on social media of comments, mainly from Luzon, outside of Mindanao, na bakit pa ba nandiyan pa yung mga Muslim na yon na yan, paalisin na natin. Saan pa galing yung mga Muslim, etc. So it shows the dearth of awareness with regard to the fact that we have as principal minority in the Philippines are brothers and sisters, in the Bangsamoro and the indigenous peoples as well. So I think,
Yeah.
and this is one reason why I take very much serious the Republic Act that mandates the teaching of the history and situation of Mindanao. And this
Mhm.
is why I'm teaching the Mindanao Politics of Peace and Development. And again, mabuti na lang, De La Salle is very open to these kinds of subjects. And for the students, I think we have to ask them with regard to how they can benefit from this. But I think the important thing is that we know that we are all citizens of the Philippines with equal rights and equal in dignity. Yun lang po.
Salamat, Attorney Sej. Dr. Jal, any tip, any message to our students here, and how can they prepare and help eventually in the development of the Bangsamoro? I think naka-mute ka. There.
Communication is very important, and not just the communication, clear communication without any adversarial manner. In order for us to work together as brothers and sisters, as mentioned by Attorney Sedge, and again, inspired by Attorney Sedge. Well, she's a legal luminary. Speaking of the first, naungusan ang Philippine government, I guess we have BA 813 enacting the Bangsamoro Sustainable Development Act that give that give a platform for both the national government and the Bangsamoro government to work together hand in hand in terms of ensuring that the high quality of governance working together as one nation is ensured. I guess we had a Philippine Agenda 21 of then President Ramos, but it didn't work. According to my review of related literatures, it didn't work well. Only the Palawan Council for Sustainable Development that sustained. The rest of the LGU did not sustain. I don't know what happened. I hope that the Bangsamoro Sustainable Development works well and really strikes the balance in terms of governance and all other four domains that I have mentioned. We also have this Bangsamoro, as I've mentioned, as part of my presentation, the Bangsamoro Forestry Code, inspired by the framework that I've done in terms of sustainable forest management model for Bangsamoro peace building. Because when we do intervention in the Bangsamoro, it's not just merely, introduce some development, but really with a context of high peace sensitivity, recognizing the belief and cultures of the different group there, the tribe people, so to speak, the settlers, the Muslim Bangsamoro, and the indigenous people, as has been exhaustively discussed by Attorney Sedge. So yeah,
Thank you very much.
future, more brighter futures to come.
Thank you, Dr. Jal. Dr. Nasef, you're back. I see you on screen. Ang question natin ay, for the students out there now listening to us, how can they help? How can they prepare themselves for in supporting the Bangsamoro development?
I think that for the students to help is to campaign a certain institutional and political reform in the Philippines, and you can see that in the Bangsamoro government. Firstly, it was the Bangsamoro government, the parliament, who has the audacity to legislate anti-political dynasty provisions in their legislation. You can see so many progressive legislations, just like what Sedge had mentioned, that it was, for the first time, IDPs have been codified in the Bangsamoro Parliament. But of course, these are just enactment.
Yeah.
We will see that if these laws are properly implemented, monitored, and what could have been the repercussion after its 5 year to 10 year implementation. There should be monitoring. What was the communal problems were addressed, and I think that you can also take a look Bangsamoro government as a kind of an experimental whether the Philippine political reform can pursue a federal parliamentary system. Just what like the Congress have asked me, they see the Bangsamoro Parliament as a kind of an experiment, if it's possible, for the Philippine government to have a change of its political governmental system from presidential to federal parliamentary system form of government. One thing that I have always advocated is the institutionalization of a federal parliamentary system. But in the government, in the Bangsamoro lens, I propose a dissolution of local government units in the Bangsamoro and the institutionalization of Bangsa parliaments, meaning in
Mhm.
all of the communities within the Bangsamoro, we will have Bangsa Maranao Parliament, Bangsa Badjao Parliament, Bangsa Iranon Parliament, Bangsa Maguindanaon Parliament, Bangsa Sub Parliament, and there will be a national, regional Bangsa Parliament. And this is based on what I call community welfare clan representation, because the Bangsamoro is based on kinship and clans representations that would absolutely destroy political dynasties if all clans in the Bangsamoro are well politically represented in each of these sub regional Bangsa parliament. And if that can also be exported in other regions in the Philippines, why not? We can have Luzon Parliament, Visayas Parliament, and Mindanao Parliament well represented, and then we'll have a national Philippine Parliament system, a federal one. Not only a Senate that is you can only vote Senate if it's popular or not, if it's based in Manila. So we can have a proportional representation, a nice institutional reforms now that we are under scrutinized because of rampant corruptions across the Philippine spectrum. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we end the open forum. I just like to quickly ask our lecturers, no, as we wrap up, just your key final message to our listeners, participants today, in building that resilient future for, I guess, not just BARM, for across the Philippines. You're just a simple message that you'd like to leave behind as we close this session. I'll start with Dr. Jal. Naka-unmute ulit. Wait, let's. There you go.
Okay, thank you, guys, for joining us in this series of Kapihan. We really appreciate your time. My words is, we badly need to continuously extend your hands to us and just believe on us, because I used to work in the national government, and some of the people in the north are just maybe waiting for us to mess up. So instead, can you just have some faith on us? And again, this is a peace agreement between the national government and the people who struggle for the right to self-determination. So it's everyone's stake. It's not only our stake. Do not wait for us to mess up or to get successful. The Bangsamoro success is everyone's success, every Filipino success. So if you get successful, at least in terms of Bangsamoro sustainable development, in terms of the form of government that we are adopting, like the federal form of government, or the way we handle our IDPs, that's also your success. It's not only our success. To end my message, my advocacy is let us plant trees, because planting trees is the most effective way of controlling the flood control.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jal. I will very much take note of that. Attorney Sedge, your final message to our listeners, participants today.
Okay, maraming salamat. I love listening to Dr. Jal. Always, always. I would like to give just a very simple message that in the end of the day, we as a people will be judged by history as to how far we have implemented the human rights of our peoples without discrimination. At syempre, kasama po doon yung mga kapatid natin sa Bangsamoro and the indigenous peoples. Yun lang po.
Maraming salamat. Very much impactful. And of course, Dr. Nassef, your message to the audience today.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Attorney Sedge, and to Dr. Jal, and also to Chibning for hosting this session on Bangsamoro. Kailangan natin at marapat ho nating malaman na ang istorya at karanasan ng Bangsamoro ay parte ng istorya ng kabuuan ng Pilipinas at ng buong sambayan ng Pilipino. Ngayon, kung mamarapatin nyo, makikita nyo kahit man lang sa mga kasaysayang libro, sa mga aklat na naisulat, napakatiting ng mga pinipresenta. Halimbawa, pupunta ka sa mga DepEd materials, sa mga CHED materials books. It only talks about a little bit about the Bangsamoro. Kaya hindi talaga malaman at mawari ng mga taga Maynila o ng mga hindi taga Bangsamoro kung anong kinasasadlakan ng ating mga kapatid na sa Bangsamoro. Kahit man lang, siguro malalaman nilang Bangsamoro mula sa pagkain na kinakain dahil masarap ang pagkain ng mga Maranao, ng mga Maguindanao, Tausug. Pero ang lagi nila nakikita pag pinag-uusapan Muslim ay kaguluhan, sigalot, patayan, terorismo, lalong-lalo na yung mga nangyari pa sa loob ng mga ilang dekada. Ganito na lang ang laging naririnig ng mga taga Maynila at ng mga taga Cebu o kahit man lang. Ang mas nakakakilala sa ating mga Bangsamoro ay mga kapitbahay natin sa Mindanao. Mga karating nating mga rehiyon, ang Dabawenyo, ang Jensan, etc. Pero pag-uusapan ang patungkol sa Bangsamoro, laging kaguluhan na lamang ang narikita, ang laging pinipresenta sa mga media. So ngayon na meron na tayong kapayapaan, sana mapanatili natin itong kapayapaan ito. Pero napaka napakahirap na ma-maintain ang kapayapaan lalo na halimbawa nakikita mo ang Supreme Court, 'di ba? Laging nandiyan ancestral domain, unconstitutional, ano pa bang exclusion of Sulu. Ngayon naman ang unang-unang karapatan ng mga Moro na pumili ng kanilang leaders ay sinabing hindi i-reset na lang ang election, ang parliamentary election. At hanggang saan ba ang otonomiya, ang kasarinlan ng Bangsamoro kung lagi-lagi nilang araw-araw pinapakilaman ng Malacanang? Nakita natin yan. Makikita nyo, napakaraming issue. Hindi nilang binigyan nila ng autonomiya, pabayaan nyo lang sila at hayaan nyo silang ihulma ang kanilang tadhana. Pero kung ngayon ay laging pinapakilaman, ngayon ay laging maraming obstacles, hindi ko alam kung paano natin mapanatili na magkaroon ng magandang pamumuhay para sa ating mga kapatid na Bangsamoro. Maraming salamat.
Maraming salamat, Dr. Nassef. I think malalim na usapin pa yan. If there's any lesson we've learned for the past 3 sessions of Kaprihan, no, it's really educating ourselves, understanding what's going on in the Bangsamoro region, from voters' education to the postponement of elections, supposedly March na daw, and now that we're talking about moral governance, the displacement of people, and of course, environmental sustainability. Marami nang na-pick up na lessons ang ating mga nakikinig. Pero hindi lang ito natatapos dito dahil in the end, what we always say, who are the actual winners? No? Impactful, sinong umaaksyon, sinong gagalaw tungo sa totoong kaunlaran para sa Bangsamoro region. So we end the open forum there, and let me now quickly introduce our closing speaker as partner of the Shivning Alumni Association for this particular session. We'd like to call a Filipina, a lawyer, a humanitarian, and a mother of 2, Maria Ermina Ia Valdevilla Gallardo, who has been the head of National Office of the UNHCR in the Philippines since 2021, representing the United Nations Refugee Agency in the UN and Humanitarian Country Team. Unlike most of her peers in the legal profession, she chose to be a humanitarian and joined the UN, having been captivated by alternative lawyering. She made it her life's mission to assist stateless persons, enhance services for refugees, advocate for the protection of the rights of IDPs, and to be of service to the vulnerable and marginalized. With over a decade of experience under the Protection Unit with focus on capacity building, legal and policy development, she contributed to UNHCR's efforts to enhance the protection space for the forcibly displaced and stateless. She is an expert on protection issues of the people UNHCR works with and for. Iya has worked with the government to provide free legal assistance and other services to refugees and asylum seekers, strengthen protection coordination mechanism for persons at risk of statelessness, build partnership with universities, develop modules, conduct lectures, and capacity building activities for lawyers, sharing her expertise in refugee and international law for entities such as the PAO. She is passionate in advancing bills that protect refugees, stateless persons, populations at risk of statelessness, and IDPs in the Philippines. With her at the helm, UNHCR supported the Philippine government in facilitating the establishment of the Interagency Steering Committee on the Protection of Asylum Seekers, Refugees, and Stateless Persons, which raised awareness on the special needs and requirements on aliens and foreign law, allowing greater appreciation on the issue of asylum seekers and refugees. She's also a member of the IBP since 2010. Attorney Iya completed a degree in speech communication with honors from the University of the Philippines, Diliman, obtained her Bachelor's of Laws from the San Beda College of Law, and is a candidate for a Master's of Laws degree. She worked with and for the Department of Agriculture and several law firms in Metro Manila in the past. She also has completed courses and trainings on refugee protection and statelessness from the Tilburg University in Netherlands and the San Remo International Institute of Humanitarian Law in San Remo, Italy, among others. So, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, a message from our partner, UNHCR, Attorney Maria Iya Valdevilla Gallardo.
Good morning, distinguished guests, colleagues, and partners. It's a privilege to speak with you today about a theme that resonates closely to my heart: building resilient futures for internally displaced persons through moral governance, environmental sustainability, and durable solutions. Across the Philippines and globally, internal displacement affects millions, driven by conflict, disasters, and climate-related events. It disrupts lives, deepens vulnerabilities, and challenges our systems of protection and governance. But displacement is not just a humanitarian issue. It is a development issue, a governance issue, and above all, a moral issue. Durable solutions must go beyond temporary relief, whether through return, integration, and relocation. They must restore dignity in rebuilding their lives. These solutions must be rights-based, inclusive, and sustainable, linked to broader peace-building and development efforts. This calls for moral governance, leadership that is transparent, compassionate, and people-centered. Local governments play a vital role when they lead with empathy and with integrity. And displaced persons must be seen not just as passive recipients of aid, but also as active partners in the society. We must also address the environmental dimension. Many IDPs are displaced by climate-related disasters and resettled in areas equally at risk. Durable solutions must include climate-resilient housing, sustainable livelihoods, and disaster preparedness. Environmental sustainability is not a luxury. It is a necessity. As Chevening scholars, You carry a moral obligation to lead with purpose. You are a part of a global network of change makers entrusted to use your education and platforms to advocate for inclusive governance, sustainable development, and human rights. Your leadership must reflect the values of justice, empathy, and accountability, especially for the most vulnerable. Today, I call on you to take the leadership further. Lend your voice, your networks, and your influence to support and advocate for the passage of the IDP bill in the 20th Congress. This landmark legislation is crucial to institutionalizing protection and durable solutions for internally displaced persons in the Philippines. Your advocacy can help turn political will into policy and policy into meaningful change. I encourage you to commit to building futures that are not only resilient, but just. Because durable solutions are not simply technical goals. They are a reflection of who we are as a person and what we stand for. Maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat, Attorney Iya. Kinalulugod namin maging partner ang UNHCR. Can we all stay for a quick photo op with all the participants? And also, let me remind everyone that there will be a feedback form. The link will be shared in the chat box, and it will also be projected on screen. So please feel free to click on the link and provide your feedback on the session of this Kapihan session, because again, we'd like to enhance, we'd like to get more recommendation from you, from all of you, for the succeeding topics that we will be implementing as part of this series. So Karen, will you be doing the I guess photo op, no? I-screenshot na lang. If you can switch on your camera there, so at least we all see the early mga early nagigising, no? Just to join us for this session. Okay, let me see, Karen, if you can start. First slide, first panel, I guess. Guys, just keep smiling. I think we'll definitely capture your photos. There you go. One more time. Okay, on my end, I think this is the last window. There you go. Again, maraming salamat. We also want to say our thanks to the partners of this Kapihan session. Again, University of de Manila, Sultan Kudarat State University, Adamson University, De La Salle, Mindanao State University, the College of Law of University of St. La Salle, the Law Student Government of MLQI, Arellano, of course, to British Embassy Manila, to the Bangsamoro Transition Authority, to Attorney Maria Hermina Gallardo of UNHCR, by Hejira Limbona, Chancellor of the Mindanao State University, Maguindanao, to the Dean of College of Forestry and Environmental Studies, Rowena Benavides, to the President of the Law Student Government of the Arellano University School of Law, Ken Carandang, John Kevin Sampson, thank you very much, President of Verbal Legis Moot Court and Debate Organization of QU rather, Dean Ralph Sarmiento of University of St. La Salle, Ace Lawrence Antazo, Executive Secretary, MLQU, University Law Student Government,